All right, now the next thing we're going to go into is PVCs. Just like there are PACs, there are premature atrial contractions, there are premature junctional contractions. There can also be PVCs, or premature ventricular contractions. So let's look at this one. So we have a normal rhythm, let's say a normal beat, and then we got this funny situation here. Notice that the normal beat has a normal QRS. A normal QRS is how long again? Within 3 little boxes, or within 0.12 seconds. We have a normal beat, but then we get this little guy here, and notice, what do you notice about the QRS duration? It gets wider, okay? So this is a narrow QRS, but in this PVC here, we have a wide QRS. That's one of the things you're going to notice. Also, so we had a beat here, the next beat should have been here. But we got this little guy that came a little early here. So we have a contraction that was initiated due to early depolarization. What could be the cause? Well, anything. It could be a stimulant, it could be a medication, it could be caffeine, it could be energy drinks, it could be ischemia, lots of things. Now, for instance, let's say another version of this is where you have PVCs, you have a PVC here, and then we have this kind of almost tachycardic situation. And it looks like it's in the ventricles, and the way we know that is the QRS is wide. So what we notice here is this is a phenomenon called a run of VTAC. This can be very fatal because the very next thing that can happen, so they start off in a normal beat, but then they had a PVC and maybe they had another one, but then they went into this run of VTAC. Well, these extra situations were not producing a normal beat. So it was interfering with cardiac output. It's interfering with blood flow. They can very easily go from this into VTAC. Well, let's do that better. They can very easily go from that into VTAC. They can go from that into VFib. They can go from that into asystole. You got it? So if ever you see this situation where there's a run of VTAC, you need to be very careful. You need to aggressively tackle this, because they may very quickly slip into cardiac arrest. So immediately, especially if they have a pulse, immediately go ahead and put the multifunction electrode pads on them, put the pads on them. For instance, if they're on just a floor of a hospital, go ahead and activate a code response or a rapid response. Maybe move them to a different environment where they're going to be monitored a little better. If they're in telemetry, there again, just follow your protocols for whatever your response activation is. But this patient needs to be monitored very, very closely, okay? Because things can change very quickly and they can rapidly deteriorate. When it comes to PVCs, though, we can see PVCs occasionally, or we can see PVCs with a little more frequency. Now, when it comes to how often we get them, or how are they arranged, sometimes you'll just have one PVC by itself. Sometimes, for instance, you'll have 2 PVCs together. In that case, or for instance, like every other beat is a PVC, we call that situation bigeminy. That don't even sound like something you want, right? I got bigeminy. What? So one pattern where every other beat is a PVC, we call that PVCs with bigeminy. If you have, for instance, every third beat is a PVC, that would be trigeminy. It could be every fourth beat is a PVC. That would be quadrigeminy, right? Now, which do you think is worse? Bigeminy, trigeminy, or quadrigeminy? Which would actually be worse? Well, think about it. Let's say you have a normal beat and then a PVC. All right? And then a normal beat and a PVC. And a normal beat and a PVC. In this situation, half of the beats. So this is bigeminy, where every other beat is a PVC. Well, what we're saying here is 50% of the beats are PVCs. Half of the beats are PVCs. That would be really bad, okay? However, for instance, in trigeminy, let's say in trigeminy, we've got a normal, and then a PVC. A normal, PVC, normal, PVC. Well, in this case, every third beat, or so about 33% of the beats are PVCs. So basically, you can tell that the bigeminy is actually worse because every other beat, like half of the beats, are not properly perfusing. So if you see this, or let's say somebody goes from quadrigeminy to trigeminy to bigeminy, things are rapidly changing for the worse. And so you need to very aggressively intervene with this patient. Okay? That's pretty cool, huh? All right. So we've now covered, guys, let me show you. This is what we've done. Oh, let's get my pen. So this is what we've done. We literally started off in the we started off in the atria. We covered all kinds of rhythms there. We went into the junction, we went into the ventricles. So we've been throughout the entire heart. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some abnormalities specifically within the conduction pathway. You know how the signal should normally go. Let's use our handy dandy picture again. We should normally go from the SA node through the Bachman's bundle, through the internodal pathways, through the AV node. This should sound so familiar. You should be saying this faster than me at this point. It goes from the AV node through the bundle of His, through the right bundle branch and the Purkinje's there. We've got the left bundle branch and the Purkinje's, and of course the left has two fascicles. You got it. You should know this by now. Well, now we're going to talk about, well, what happens if we have problems somewhere along this conduction pathway? Specifically, we're going to kind of focus in this area around the AV node. And we're going to talk about, well, what happens if, for instance, the signal, let's say the SA node was working, but when it got to the AV node, we either had a partial block where just a portion of it was blocked, or we had a complete block where no signal went from the atria to the ventricles. So we're going to now talk about AV blocks. Ta-da! Okay, so let's go to page 75 on your workbook. Are we ready? All right, now we're going to go into AV blocks. And by the way, guys, we'll probably go just a little long today, but this is our final day. I promise I will cover everything because I definitely want to get into all the rhythms for you. If you have to leave a little early, that's fine, but catch this in the replay because I'm going to go through, I think I've got 30-something rhythms, but I want to go through as many of those as we can. But chances are we're going to go a little long today. I do apologize for that, but I want to make sure I cover as much as possible for you. And make sure you watch these replays and then tell all your friends about it. Tell all your friends about how much we're learning throughout this week in the EKG Mastery Challenge. Hang on.